Hi.
Hi, CB kids. How are you? Do you miss coming to church? I do. But we're doing the right thing. We're staying home so everyone can stay well. I look forward to seeing you again soon, I hope.
Yep.
I miss all your sweet faces. I wanted to tell you a Bible story this morning, but before I start, I have a question for you. Have you ever had a time when you reacted the wrong way to something? Like maybe you laughed at the wrong time, or maybe you rolled your eyes at something your parents said. Reacting properly can be tricky. I have a story about one time. Well, actually, it happens to me a lot. I laugh at the wrong time. But this one particular time, I was just newly married, and Pastor Aaron had come home, and he was coming up the stairs into the kitchen, and he slipped. There was some water on the floor, so as he came to the kitchen, he slipped. But as he was falling, he wanted to make sure that he didn't hit his face on the counter. So as he was falling, he's like trying to twist away from the counter, and he flailed all over. It was crazy. So from where I was standing, all I could see was this crazy like flailing around. So I started to laugh. And unfortunately, he had hurt himself. He broke his toe. And so he was hurting, but all I could do was laugh. So I got it under control, and I had to apologize, tell him I was sorry, and I was very sorry that he broke his toe. Now, Sarah in the Bible, she had another type of experience where she laughed at the wrong time. Not necessarily because it was funny, but because of something else. Let me tell you the story. So Sarah, who's married to Abraham, God had promised them a child. And so Sarah was waiting for a baby. And she'd been waiting a really long time. And she was 90 years old, and she still had not had a baby. And so she was waiting for this baby, and one day some men came to visit Sarah and Abraham. And while they were visiting, these men told Abraham that he would indeed have a son, and that just as God had promised, many generations would come from Sarah and Abraham. But Sarah was 90 at this point, which is really old to think about having a baby. So when she heard the men talking, because she wasn't in the tent at the time, she was standing outside. When she heard the men talking about her having a baby, she laughed. She thought, oh, that's crazy. I'm too old for a baby. But in fact, even though Sarah laughed at the idea that God would fulfill his promise with someone who was so old, the fact is he did fulfill his promise. And Sarah did become a mother, and she did have that baby that she so long had waited for. And when that baby came, Sarah named him Isaac, which means laughter. And I have to think that every time she looked at him, probably her heart was filled with laughter because she was so joyous that she did have that baby she so long waited for. But I think she was also reminded of the fact that she laughed when she heard that God was going to fulfill his promise. And isn't it so great that even though Sarah laughed, God still was faithful to her? I hope this week, as you go through your week, that you think about the fact that God is faithful, and even in spite of us, he's faithful anyway. So before we leave each other, I want to share a Bible verse with you, and I've asked Parker to say it for us. So what's the Bible verse?
It's, the Lord takes good care of all those who fall. He lifts up all those who feel helpless. Psalm 145, verse 14.
Nicely done. Well, that's it for us. We hope you have a great week.
Bye.